This is the Chaotic Interruption Shatter Mirage for World vs. World roaming. It's a very aggressive playstyle because you can lock down your targets and get cooldown reduction from Chaotic Interruption and Duelist Discipline to keep following through on your CCs. And because the build is using the Renewing Oasis trait with the Chaos trait line, you have a lot of passive reduction on conditions, which allows you to survive conditions and be able to take the Infinite Horizon trait instead of Elusive Mind, which allows your illusions to also use ambushes. So you've got a lot of overtime pressure on the target, and then you have a Shatter playstyle as well with Ineptitude, so you can pressure out their cooldowns and then find the kill when you're ready for those Shatter bursts. So let's go over the build real quick, and then I'll talk about the playstyle. So we're going to be taking the Celestial stats with the Rune of the Traveler because there's a lot of hybrid synergy on this build. You're going to be getting a lot of boons with the Vigor and Fury uptime and regeneration, and healing power is going to make that regeneration scale a lot more, so you have a lot of sustain on this build. Vigor is really important as well because dodging is really important, and whenever you crit, you've got Fury, but whenever you crit, you've got illusions giving out bleeding. So you're going to do more power and Condi damage with all of this hybridity. And you've also got might from your staff auto attack and your clones doing staff auto attacks. And of course your ambush in staff is going to give might as well. So that's pretty much the reason for Celestial, and pretty much Condi builds nowadays are running Celestial anyways, but this build has a lot of synergy with it. Traveler Runes is just more Celestial, but it's got movement speed as well because swiftness is not that reliable on this build. So it's really nice to have swiftness at all times because a lot of situations where you're kiting enemies or running away, you're not going to be able to stand inside your Chaos Storm or not necessarily getting hit all the time, so that you get swiftness from your staff. And then on the staff, we have Cleansing Energy, and on the sword pistol, also Cleansing Energy. Dodging is really important, so you want those energy sigils, and cleansing is really important because this build, as I said, is foregoing the Elusive Mind trait, so you're going to need that extra Condi cleanse. But if you feel like you've got enough Condi cleanse, you can go for Doom Sigils instead of cleansing, because those add a lot of cover Condis and damage over time. The traits are just dueling. You've got all the interruption and Condi traits, so blinds are going to give confusion, and interrupts are going to give blind, so therefore interrupts give confusion. And then in Chaos, you've got the Lesser Chaos Storm, so you've got a Chaos Storm on your Staff 5, and on your heal skill every 75 seconds. If you have a double Chaos Storm down, you'll be giving yourself a lot of resolution, also some Aegis and swiftness, but the resolution is really important because, as I said, the build is kind of like passively tanking conditions, and resolution is really good at that. And then we have Auspicious Anguish, which will give a Condi conversion into a boon whenever you're CC'd, and this is very powerful because usually when you're being CC'd is when you're taking the most pressure, so getting like burning converted into Aegis can sometimes save your life, and it's just gonna make up for the lack of the Elusive Mind trait. Then Chaotic Interruption is gonna reduce your cooldowns on the weapon skill that you're using randomly when you interrupt an enemy, and this can be really nice when you're in the pistol set because you have a lot of interrupts there, and we'll go over that later. Then in Mirage, we have Renewing Oasis for the regeneration and condition duration reduction. And then we have Desert Distortion, which is going to allow you to not only get a ambush ability when you distort, but it will also give out these Mirage mirrors when you distort, depending on how many clones you shatter. And that will allow you to use a lot more dodges and ambushes, which is also going to have really good synergy with Infinite Horizon, which whenever you gain Mirage Cloak, your illusions will also gain it, which means that they're also doing ambushes to keep pressure on the target. The heal skill that I use is False Oasis because this is going to give you more Vigor uptime. It's going to give you a Mirage Mirror, which, by the way, Mirage Mirrors also give weakness to nearby enemies when you pick them up, and that'll give you Mirage Cloak, which will give you infinite horizon to your clones, and more ambushes, which are going to be really important to the playstyle. Whenever you dodge, you will be able to use your ambush skill on that weapon. And for the sword, the ambush skill is a leap, which will daze the target, and it will create a clone if you have a target enabled. So this is really good for clone generation, and whenever you have clones out, they will also use ambushes when you dodge, and that means that they'll also interrupt the target. And if you interrupt the target with a clone, that counts for your interruption traits, which can give you reduction on your cooldowns, and that's going to give you a lot of damage. So using the pistol 4 is going to give you a lot of bleeding, but also when you've got the pistol 4 on cooldown, you want to use your ambush to daze the target. And since the target is just sitting here not attacking, they're not going to get interrupted. But you can often use your pistol 4 twice per rotation because of how many interrupts you have with your clones doing those ambushes. And you have also the magic bullet, which is going to stun the initial target and then daze another target nearby, which oftentimes will also trigger an interrupt. So the pistol 4, it doesn't do amazing damage, but it's pretty reliable damage, and it will be very often that you can use it. So it's just a really good skill to spam out. Then you've got the illusionary leap, which you can often use. I like to use it with the immobilize here, and then I will daze them. So essentially when they're immobilized, they can't dodge, so they're kind of forced to attack you, and that makes it really easy for my clones to daze them and get the interrupt synergy. So I like to use the Phantasmal Duelist and then immobilize them in the Duelist so that they're taking all that bleeding damage, and then daze them. And that's kind of like the main opener that I like to use. The pistol 4, use the sword 3, and then jaunt on them, or just use your leap on them and interrupt them, and you'll get some cooldowns back. Then from there you could use the magic bullet, or swap to your staff in melee range, and you've got chaos armor. So chaos armor gives you all those boons, and when enemies hit you, it'll give either weakness, confusion, or cripple randomly. But also when you activate this skill, just the staff 4, it will give blind and confusion to nearby enemies. So if, for example, I just use my sword combo on someone, then I can also cover those condies with blind and confusion, and because blinds also give confusion, it'll give out even more confusion. So it's like a 5 confusion skill if you use that in melee range. Really important to time that well so that you can not only get people off of you, but also kind of like do aggressive combos. And then you've got the phase retreat, really important skill to get used to because it can be used with a target to gain a clone. It's also a leap finisher, as we said before, to get that chaos armor. But if you do it without a target, you can control where you go, and you can use this for better positioning and kiting. I like to use this with the about face and just move away from the target, not necessarily in the exact direction away from them, but in the direction I want to move towards. You can also use it to chase if you detarget as well. If I want to go closer to the target, then detarget it and phase retreat closer to them, and then you can get in range for your like sword burst. Phantasmal Warlock, just going to give you an extra phantasm, does a little bit of vulnerability, not that strong, but you just spam this out on cooldown. And then you got Chaos Storm, which dazes on cast. This is really important because it will give you an interrupt if you daze someone while they're casting. So you want to time this really well. Usually I like to put this on top of myself though, as I said, for the resolution, but it can be used at range as well. For example, like if someone's reviving, you can put the Chaos Storm down on them, and it will give chill, poison, and weakness, pulsing. So those are really good conditions to give out randomly. So it's a really strong skill, and you've also got one when you use your heal skill, right? Because there's a 75 internal second cooldown. So you've got 2 Chaos Storms, and they're both very powerful. So you want to make sure that you use them well. So let's talk about Illusionary Ambush. Illusionary Ambush has a lot of randomness to it because when you use it, it will port you to a random location around the target. It will also now tether those clones to the target because usually clones will attack the target that you summon them on, and then when that target dies, they just disappear. So it's nice to be able to shatter on a new target. It allows you to change targets very fast. But that random movement component is kind of bad in some situations because it could put you into bad positioning. So what you need to do is use some logic to control your positioning. So for example, if I am at maximum range to the target and I use illusionary ambush, I know that I'm going to be somewhere over here. So it advanced me towards the target because I used it at maximum range. But if I use it in melee range, then it could move me away from the target because the potential locations are all the way over here. So you can use this intelligently to disengage from fights. For example, if I'm being chased from this direction and I use illusionary ambush at maximum range on this target, I'm going to be somewhere closer to that target, or even potentially on the other side of the target, which can allow me really good distance. As you can see right there, that got me a lot of distance from the target. So that's really intelligent usage of the illusionary ambush and can save you in a lot of situations. But if you just kind of use it as a secondary dodge because it's a no animation Mirage cloak, it's pretty good for that too. Also, you want to get into the flow of your energy sigil. What I mean by this is you don't want to waste your energy sigil by, for example, swapping while you're at full energy, because then you just wasted a dodge. So what you want to often do is wait to weapon swap until after you use your dodge, use the ambush, then swap, then you get another energy sigil proc to give you another dodge. So what you can also do with this is get a double ambush. So you got like a second or two after you use a dodge to use the ambush. So what you can do is, by the order of the skills that you use, you can use 2 ambushes at once. So if I dodge, swap, ambush, dodge, ambush, then I can use 2. So like this, dodge, ambush, dodge, ambush. And I just use 2 sword ambushes in a row, which can give me a lot of disengage potential, a lot of chase potential. And you can do that the other way around as well. If I want to get 2 ambushes on my staff, that can give me a lot of alacrity, a lot of sustain, and a lot of pressure. So you really want to get used to doing that. This is a situation where a Harbinger and a Scrapper are going to chase me down, and you'll see how I kite and try to create an advantageous situation for myself. Normally, Harbingers are extremely hard to fight, but a Mesmer can actually do pretty well against them. But Harbingers are extremely powerful right now, and I can't really take them in a 1v2, so I have to split them up or somehow isolate them so that I can potentially get the kill in a 1v1. So I'm just juking around with my illusionary leap. You can use that, and then if they pass by before you port, you can kind of like delay the port. So you can do some cool jukes with that. And obviously using illusionary ambush here gets me behind them, but not enough distance, so I do the double sword leap here with the order of the ambush. It's really important to get those double leaps to get disengaged, to create some distance between your target so that you can choose when and when not to fight. I go to the Scrapper though to see if maybe they will come at me, but yeah, they're sticking together, and that's going to make this really hard because if I can't isolate them, then I have to fight them both at the same time, and that's gonna really tax me of my cooldowns. So I go back in on the Harbinger, I use my burst on them, interrupt them, give them confusion. I do a pretty good burst, but they use their heal skill, they're back up, and now they're kiting while the Scrapper goes aggressive on me. So I've used all my cooldowns on the Harbinger, but now the full cooldown Scrapper's on me. The Harbinger comes back, and I have to counter pressure them because you can't just run away or the enemy is going to just free cast on you. So I am trying to counter pressure them because sometimes you can actually one-shot people if they don't play around your counter pressure because you've got confusion. If they just free cast into that, Harbinger's got a lot of quick attacks with quickness and how fast their auto attack is, they could really just instantly die. So it's really important that you try to counter pressure in between kiting. Now I use my illusionary leap to juke around and Yeah, they're right on top of me still. I illusionary ambush, but one issue there is that I had my auto cast on the ambush. You really want to control right click your one skill so that it doesn't auto cast as a Mirage, so that you control when you use the ambush skill. But I play a lot of classes, so I sometimes forget to change that. The Harbinger is getting a lot of counter pressure, and I'm using my ambush to get away again, using staff 2, and I use my Chaos Storm to get the chill on the Scrapper there, which I got luckily. And now, yeah, someone else comes in and I'm gonna just be able to disengage because they retarget and see that maybe this other player is gonna be easier to kill than me. Here's another situation where I am playing with other players. We've got like a 3v kind of like 4 situation here, but we're under a lot of pressure and we have to back off, and I'll be kiting these revenants that are on me. There's like a ranger free casting on me as well. We get them low, but they back off, and there's just more people jumping on me, so I have to back off again. One thing though is that in situations where you're playing with other players, Mirage is still very good. You usually think of Mirage as like a kind of like a 1v1er, but it's also a very good assassin, because the confusion, if you put it on someone, they can't just say, oh, I've got confusion on me, I have to leave, or I can't use any skills. They have to react to your teammates also doing damage, and if they can't cleanse the confusion, they have to react or just die to being trained down. So the confusion is actually really good in these situations where you're all focusing one target. So it's also important that you are good at focusing targets. So we get a lot of burst on the Vindicator here. Another one jumps on me, so I have to back off and kite, but we've got plenty of cooldowns left still. My heal skill's up as well, and we're just constantly regenerating. We are gonna get the stun on the Vindicator there, and we're gonna use our pistol. There's 2 Vindicators here, so the first Vindicator we bursted is actually low, so we're gonna continue bursting that one. And we're gonna get the stomp here by doing a little bit of a port play, but that wasn't really necessary. And now my ally is in the down state, so we're gonna try to get the res by interrupting the enemies, and that'll give them blind as well. And then we can just go for the res with distortion or just dodging. Now the Daredevil here is using their shadow step to get out, so we probably retarget and go for someone else. So the Vindicator jumps in on us again, so we're gonna put down our heal skill, which puts down a Chaos Storm. I do a double Chaos Storm, which gives a lot of boons to my allies. Can give Aegis as well, so very defensive and offensive skill. Chaos Storm is just amazing. We get the down, and I have to blink out because there's so many AoEs in that area and just so much CC getting spammed. So we back off. It looks like a lot of their the enemy team has come here now, so we have to back off again. That's another important thing, is you want to immediately back off as soon as you get a kill in risky situations, because you're gonna not be able to follow through. Like, you need to back off, get the kill, and then back off again. Play very roamer playstyle as a Mesmer, because that's what it is. So we backed off, and then we got our cooldowns, and now we can re-burst on the target and chase this kill. We follow through with the kill as hard as we can until we run out of cooldowns, and if we can't get the kill, then we just back off. But it looks like we can get the kill, so we keep going in, go for the kill, and we're gonna probably be able to cleave this. Yeah, we've got a lot of cooldowns. I can just use my ambushes on top of this, double Chaos Storm if I want, and we're just gonna cleave this out. So that's pretty much how you play the Chaotic Interruption Shatter Mirage. If you like this content, then like the video. If you want to support me, you can do so by checking out the links in the description, and I will see you all next time.